I'm Chris Williams from Cyclone Fanatic and a proud Iowa State graduate from the class of 2007. No one shows up like Iowa State fans. And Cyclones support Cyclones on and off the field. Your gift can provide scholarships to students, fund groundbreaking research. We can even drum up opportunities for the marching band. Visit MoveWhatMatters.com to learn how you can make an impact today.
He's the prime cut passer from behind the meat counter. It's Fairway Frank. And introducing a 6'3" center who's a cut above the rest. Say hello to Audie Crooks.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cyclone Fanatic pregame show. I'm your host, Leah Nelson. Chelsea Poppens will be joining me in the studio to talk about your Iowa State women's basketball team taking on number 11 Kansas State. We'll get into it. We're super excited. But before we get started, as always, let's thank our sponsors. Starting off with our title sponsor, we got Channel Seed. They are great people, great fans, great Iowa State fans. We love all the things that they are doing over at Channel Seed. And our friends over at Fairway Meat and Grocery, as always, they have the best produce, the best meat. Go and grab some when you can. Check them out for your tailgates, dinners, anything and everything. Make sure you check out Fairway Meat and Grocery. All right, Chelsea, this is a fun one. Iowa State taking on number 11 Kansas State. What do you got for me? Ins and outs, people to watch out for? Give it to me straight.
I think it's going to be an interesting one because of Yoka Lee being out, fractured foot, so don't know whenever she'll be back. Don't think she'll be back for this game, but they struggled versus Colorado, and I mean Colorado beat the brakes off of them in the paint. They had like 40 points in the paint versus Kansas's 26 points in the paint. And so if we're thinking about how the damage that Audie Crooks does and the ability there, I think Iowa State should play relatively well, especially since, I mean, before the Colorado game, Kansas State was they hadn't lost yet. And now they're 7-1, second in the Big 12. They're probably going to come with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, but I think they relied a little bit too heavily on Lee up until this point. So they're still adjusting with her out. And I think you'll see that a little bit in the game versus the Cyclones, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, at first, obviously number 11, Kansas State. But then when I saw Lee was out, which very unfortunate, no one ever wants injuries. But just it seems like they are really struggling in the paint. And obviously Audie does great down low. So it's really exciting to see that. I don't want to say that there's a chance, but it's going to be a great game. They're going to really compete. Is there anyone on Kansas State now that Lee is gone that has stepped up in the last, what has it been, like a game and a half since she's been out? She went out halfway through Arizona State game, I think. And then and then Colorado. But yeah, is there anyone on Kansas State that Iowa State needs to keep an eye out for?
I mean, they have some bigs. They do. They have some height. Maupin, she's a junior. They have some veteran players with some height that I think will be able to step up in that space. And then they have solid guards. They have like Sundell Pondexter. They have Taylor, who's a good rebounder and had 8 in the last game. So they do have a bench and that is capable of stepping in. Whether or not they're going to be able to find that rhythm fast enough for this game when they've been relying on Lee, that's kind of a question. But I do think to our advantage, since we just got off the game versus UCF, and with multiple players and from the bench getting playing time and more players getting comfortable, getting confident, just like Lily Hansford getting those threes up. I mean, would love to see her shooting some more. I think Iowa State's going to be coming in pretty confident, especially with Kansas State's top player out. So
what are a few things that Iowa State really needs to do to be able to compete with Kansas State?
Obviously, buy into the scout, lockdown defense, because offense will come as soon as you get that defense going. I think it's always going to come down to not making dumb turnovers. You've seen you've seen us make less forced passes down to Crooks down low. And that's like another key thing, because at this point you can expect teams to double down on Crooks, to get the guards to get the hands in the lane and deflect the ball, forcing the other players to step up. And I think I don't know. I feel comfortable with where we're at as far as other players stepping up. I think people are constantly showing up in different ways now, and as we're finding our rhythm. And I don't know. I do think it's going to be a toss up. I'm not going to say that it's going to be completely confident, because they're 7-1. They're still second in the Big 12. It's going to be a tremendous game. And yeah, they're going to come in with some fire after losing to Colorado.
It is exciting though, with how, like, with the way Iowa State has been playing these last few games. Like, it does really make me feel confident in what they'll be able to do. But I agree, it's going to be a toss-up. I think it's going to be really enjoyable to watch. I've never been, obviously, Kansas State doesn't have a softball team. I shouldn't have said obviously. Some people don't know.
Obviously, the softball.
Softball. Everyone knows anything and everything. Everyone about softball. Speaking of which, those pinstripe uniforms. If you've seen them, I begged for those pinstripe uniforms and I never got them. So chip on my shoulder. Anyway, not to get off topic.
Guys, Leah's having a week.
I'm devastated. I just can't sleep at night. But what is the atmosphere like in Kansas State? Like, are they going to come out? I mean, if your team's ranked 11th in the nation, you would think that they're going to have a big, crazy fan base. But I don't know. I've never played.
They have a good crowd. They do. They always do. I think especially, everybody's going to show up, and it's always going to be tough to come on a road game, even though they're really not that far. So luckily we don't have to hop on a plane and go somewhere. It's just a quick bus trip. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that it's easy to come into their arena and play, but it's always going to be tough. So Iowa State still has to have their stuff together.
Their stuff together, and they have their stuff together. I love how that took me the longest time to just ask you the most simple question, but that's how my mind works. I'm like,
yeah, my answer could have been more direct, but I was like,
No, yeah, you're like, which line of Leah's question do I follow? There was 8 of them that you could have answered, but you picked the right one. So great job. I'm glad hey, we've been doing this long enough together. I feel like you can, pick. You know what I mean, but it'll be really exciting. I'm pumped to watch. You guys can tune in right after the game for post game. But go Iowa State. It's gonna be a fun one. So go Cyclones.
Go get the Dubs.
Woo.